Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the Weekly Comic Book Roundup. We've covered this week's Marvel books. Now it's time to move on to this week's DC titles, as well as the return of a favorite from Boom Studios, which is actually what we'll be kicking things off with. Something is Killing the Children, number 16. So where we left off, the first story arc had ended. Erica Slaughter saved the day. There were casualties, and she was likely going to be in trouble with the House of Slaughter. However, none of that matters for this arc. Because this arc, you see, tells the history of Erica Slaughter. So apparently she was found by a where gives her name? Turns out that when Erica was a little girl, oh Christ. Okay, there we go. Okay, so another member of the House of Slaughter, Jessica, was going after a monster when Erica was a child, and that monster killed Erica's parents as well as her best friend. And then Erica killed the monster. However, Jessica put the essence of the monster into a plush octopus of Erica's. And it was decided that, and Jessica said she was going to take Erica, take her in. So she takes her to Chicago, to the House of Slaughter. On the way, she's told things like, because of her previous upbringing, there are going to be things that there are going to be rules she's expected to know, but no list of said rules, and so, and people will try to bully her. So the best thing to do is just realize they're going to trip them up and, get back at them. So she arrives, her bags are brought in, and we meet a young Cecilia who is not happy in the slightest that Jessica was brought in astray. But she gets her mask, and it's explained that we learn a little bit about the House of Slaughter. So, first off, when walking the halls of the House of Slaughter, one wears her bandana at all times. When a hunter has earned their place within the House of Slaughter, bandana will have teeth like Cecilia's and Jessica's do. Currently, at this point in the story, Erica's is just simply plain black. Also, at least when first recruited, new members will wear the color of the hunter inducting them. In the case of Erica, who was inducted by Jessica, black. And so, the three women go off to meet with the dragon. First off, I just want to say I'm absolutely ecstatic that that Something is Killing the Children is back. I've been eagerly awaiting more new issues. The book is such a great book, and if you have a passing interest in comics and enjoy horror, seriously, at least track down the collected editions of this series. All right, Something is Killing the Children. It's a great read. But yeah, I'm honestly glad we're getting Erica's origin story. So yeah, I kind of wish there was a framing device, like her telling James, I believe his name was, the survivor from something from the first arc. I wish there was a framing device of her telling him all this, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see where the series goes after going into her origin. I'm a little saddened that we had that. I think it was like a 2 or 3 month break. But if that was what was needed, if that's what the creative needed, hey, I get it. I mean, they did manage to crank out 15 issues, boom, 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 month after month. Hey, and writer-creator James Tynion IV is a busy man, okay? I mean, he's doing Batman. I think he's doing Joker as well. And he's also doing other projects. So, yeah. All right. Moving on. Speaking of Batman, moving on to our next book. We begin with DC and Batman Black and White, number 6. Now, this to me is the downside of, and it's stupid. It's not that big of a deal, but this is kind of the downside of DC having parted ways with Diamond last year, is the fact that instead of having a detailed preview every month, or previews every month, that would say if a series was a mini-series, or if a book was a part of a mini-series, a one-shot, or just an ongoing, we suddenly get a list. We were suddenly getting a list of, okay, here's when stuff will release. No pricing information, nothing. Just here's when it comes out. You don't know if it's the beginning of a miniseries, end of a miniseries, or what. So yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I would 6 seems like it would be the concluding issue, but I guess we'll find out next month. So our stories, we've got The Second Signal by Brandon Thomas and Kari Randolph, The Abyss by Pierre Collinet and also, oh god, I probably butchered this, Chartier, Opening Moves by Nick Darrington, Like Monsters of the Deep by John Arcudi and James Herron, and 1,000 Words by Scott Snyder and John Romita Jr. So, starting things off, we've got The Second Signal. This is a fun little story. A couple guys in the Hill, in a section of Gotham referred to as the Hill. A couple of kids engineer their own bat signal. Batman shows up. They give him a circuit board, explaining there are some people missing, a lot of people missing, including the teacher that helped show them how to make their bat signal. It's Mad Hatter. So Batman shows up, goes after the Hatter, restrains himself in taking down some of the mind-controlled masses. Basically, kind of doing what he can to remove the mind-controlled devices as opposed to actually beating on them. But and the kids tell him that if Batman needs any Robins on the Hill, well, he knows where he can find a couple. And as Batman drives in the Batmobile, the two say that they're going to build that next. Which brings us to our next tale, The Abyss. This was also a really great story, and yeah, but 3 people, all involved in a recent one of Batman's recent adventures, being asked, basically being given a Rorschach test, and being asked about, basically they all have different perceptions of what happened. A civilian It was a society function. Batman was facing off with Man-Bat. Uh, the rich person just felt relieved when Batman came to the rescue. An officer who was responding, actually, it's like, yeah, Batman was trying to do the right thing, but he still caused. There was still damage he caused, like the collapse of the balcony. But that happened when he threw Man-Bat into it. And then you've got a kid that saw Batman and saw a monster, and we found out that they're all talking to the same psychiatrist, Hugo Strange. This is clearly early in Strange's career and early in Batman's career. But we get part of his notes on Batman. This only confirms my theory about this Batman and the threat he represents to Gotham citizens. Like the abused become the abuser who needs to replicate and inflict onto others the horrors he lived through. Probably as a child. One question remains. How long before he loses the battle for sanity? As the saying goes, he who battles with monsters should be cautious in the process. He does not turn himself into a monster. And of course, if you're familiar with the character Hugo Strange, well, yeah, that Hugo Strange worked with monsters and definitely turned himself into a monster. Next up, we've got opening moves by Nick Darrington. It's Batman is infiltrating a chess-based society, going after the White Court, who have the King and Queen who have kidnapped the Black Prince. However, when the chessmen noir show up, it becomes just a massive melee. Batman tries to save the prince from that, but the Black Prince cuts Batman and the child runs off into the fray. Batman's saying he's too late. Next up, we got Monsters of the Deep. Explained that there have been a series of kidnappings of young women. Batman's watching as one such woman is taken away, and apparently follows her. Turns out that the young woman taken was none other than Clayface masquerading as a young woman. But the person who was behind the kidnappings was someone that he had, the Clayface, Basil Carlo version, had history with. And but in the end, Clayface is about to kill Strasser, but he holds off for the moment, with Batman explaining that the police will soon be there, and the fire were also called. Maybe they'll bring an axe. But it is clear that Batman basically left Strasser to Clayface's mercy. Our final tale, 1,000 Words by Scott Snyder and John Romita Jr. This focuses on a photographer. He started off as a forensic photographer for the GCPD, took pictures of Batman. However, he didn't last long for forensics because Joker attacked a kid's hospital. But he continued to take pictures of Batman, selling them in the papers as the years went on. And we see some of the various pictures, like Batman against Mr. Freeze, against Penguin, against Joker, against Two-Face, against Bane, various others. But our photographer's late wife which Gordon dubbed the guy the Shutterbat. But his late wife did what she could to buy back negatives. However, his favorite picture is this one in particular, from when they first unveiled the bat signal. Supposed to be when the bat signal was first unveiled. Sold at an auction, though. But, our boy's dying, though. But they're having a big to-do about it, and so he figures he's going to go up to the signal one, during the whole thing, and Batman, when he shows up, well, he'll ask, how do you see it, how do you see it all? Your life, your work, you have to sum it up in one image, what would it be? However, on his way up to the roof, he fell, and Batman caught him. When the guy woke up, attached to the wall outside of his bedroom window is the original of that picture. The actual picture, not a print. He doesn't know Shutterbat explains, he doesn't know how Batman got it from the Waynes, but there it was, with a certificate of ownership giving it to him. But, nice story. I really dig it. Honestly, Batman Black and White has been consistently good. Yeah, there have been some odd stories here and there, but even when they're odd, they tend to at least be good. You know what I mean? Anyways, moving on to Detective Comics 1036. Where we left off, one of Bruce Wayne's neighbors had been murdered. But now, seemingly that dead neighbor was approaching Bruce Wayne on the street, right outside his home. So we get from the front page of the Gotham Gazette. Article written by Deb Donovan about the events. And the fact of the matter is that, Sarah Worth is not the first victim, just with the highest profile. So, but yeah, Bruce Wayne's standing outside of his home when apparently Sarah Worth shows up. He gets her inside. However, one of the other neighbors, Lydia, calls the police, and it turns out to be Clayface. So Bruce does what he finds a way to hide Clayface in a bag. Cops show up and like, hey, I was watching a horror, no. They look through, find anything, and sorry to bother you. In the City Hall district, two of Penguin's guys are assaulted, and later that night, Batman is up on a roof with the bag of Clayface when he is cornered by Huntress. It's also mentioned in the article by Deb Donovan some of the other unsolved murders of young women. Mary Knox, Harley Winters. Of course, Mary Knox is a rather familiar name. We'll get to that here in a second. As I said, though, that Batman runs into Huntress. Turns out to be Lady Clayface. Who was in the bag. Not Clayface, but Lady Clayface. So Batman and Huntress follow after she's released, and they do manage to help her and find out what's going on. She managed to escape from Arkham during A-Day. She wasn't affected by the poison. Eventually, she did see the murder between the murder of Sarah Worth. And she mentions that Sarah said, "Neil." So Batman starts looking up Neil Betterman, an assistant to the mayor. Also, I mentioned the murder of Mary Knox. That's what got Huntress to go to try and track down Batman for answers. But at the mayor's office, Sarah's father is rather threatening to the mayor, while the Penguins the Penguins' men bring back the man who attempted to assault them, and something strange is happening to his eyes. The same thing is happening to Neil Betterman when he's found by Batman and the Huntress. Also, Neil's hands are covered in blood, but not his. And so, Deb discovers the body of another one of her neighbors, Lydia, which is where the story ends. Which brings us to the Huntress backup story, which actually serves as a prequel now to this issue. Huntress is investigating the murder of Mary Knox, as they kind of became friends, going after an abusive ex-boyfriend of hers. They do have a little bit of a fight, but the alibi that dude gives is pretty solid. He was on his way back from Vegas when Mary was killed, so it couldn't have been him. As she leaves, though, because the ex-boyfriend does have multiple credit cards in Mary's name, Huntress makes a call to Oracle about having someone get looked into for credit card fraud. And then she's got to deal with, but she still is dealing with Doug, Mary's cat, by feeding said cat steak and saying that she'll get cat food for Doug tomorrow. And that is where the issue ends. Good issue. I actually really like this new take on Bruce Wayne on Bruce Wayne. The whole, he's no longer in the mansion. He's living in a brownstone. He has satellite caves throughout Gotham. It's refreshing. I also like the. I'm digging the Huntress story. I'm a little annoyed that certain DC books are basically having backup stories crammed into them because, sure, okay, get the fan favorites out there, give them backup stories but here's the thing. It's easy to tell when a Batman book, if a comics featuring Batman sells, it would largely be because it features Batman. But take, for example, Urban Legends. I'm buying Urban Legends, yes, because it's a Batman book, but more than anything, I'm buying it for the Grifter story. I'm enjoying the other stories immensely. But it's going to come in as, okay, as far as, the people in charge of making the decision as to what new books get greenlit, they're going to see it as, Batman book sold. Yeah, it's that Batman book that had the Grifter stuff, but, that's probably just coincidence. That said, it has been announced that starting in the 6th issue of Urban Legends, we're getting a Zealot story. So, and a Zealot versus Wonder Woman, no less. So, I'm stoked. Anyway, moving on to our next book. I'll stop bitching now. Harley Quinn #3. Where we left off, Harley, on her quest to help the clowns, was facing resistance from the henchmen of one Dr. Hugo Strange, who is experimenting on the clowns he's managed to bring in. The experiments aren't going well, at least not for the test subjects. Harley has set up a support group for former clowns, but only Kevin showed up because, well, Kevin has been doing what he can to help her. Eventually, though, another shows up, and then one of Strange's henchmen shows up in somewhat of a disguise. But they try to do the support group stuff, and so one of the support group members perks up, starting things off. He's Eric. After everything the Joker made him do to the Joker War, he's saying that maybe Hugo Strange has a point, and that's when Lockwood pipes it. Says, "Yeah, you're right. Strange does have a point. Clowns don't deserve normal." But of course, he's brought reinforcements, and then so they go to capture all the others, as well as Harley, but they fail. Eventually, Harley manages to get free. She does cause Lockwood to wreck his van. However, one of the others, which has some of the other former clowns, gets away. Harley, meanwhile, runs off into the Gotham sewers, and throughout the issue, she's been ruminating about, what a smile means. And we get this whole long bit about, like various types of smiles. Joker's smile, Ivy's smile. Obviously, everyone's heard goth vigilante can be skipped over because, well, Batman doesn't smile. Predatory smiles, like from Hugo Strange. Truly genuine smiles, like, and clear she's discussing, that she mentioned she's meeting Kevin there. However, in the sewer, she does run into, one of Gotham's other underworld denizens. Not Killer Croc this time. No. Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday. And that is where the issue ends. It's fun. I really like it. I like the fact that it's fun, but still, you've got your fun element, but you've also got, more serious elements to the story. It is also nice seeing Hugo Strange back as a somewhat major role. I also really kind of like the idea of both him and Harley being on opposing sides, seeing as how they both have similar backstory. I say similar. Slightly similar backstories, namely both being psychiatrists who became Bat villains. The difference being, of course, that eventually Harley has, changed her ways, while, Strange has simply managed to feign control better. But yeah, it's a fun issue. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. Moving on now to our final book of the week, Strange Adventures, number 10. Where we left off, the war effort was not... The Pict invasion of Earth was not going well. Phoenix had been annihilated. Members of the League had been injured. A report about going to the truth of Adam Strange's activities during the war had gone out. But that report did not include the findings of Mr. Terrific, because those weren't ready yet. But he sent them to Alana Strange. And most of the issue is, the narration is him discussing it. But he explains there are three things that, three inconsistencies. So the inconsistencies were the fact that the Picts should have had no problem conquering Ran, and yet somehow Adam Strange, of all people, was able to pull that off. 2, if Adam Strange was able to, to defeat the Picts on Ran, then why are the heroes of Earth, why is Justice League having such a problem defeating the Picts on Earth? I mean, Earth is the center of multiple multiversal, multiversal major events that, have hard, an alien invasion is just another Tuesday for the Justice League. So how come the Picts are beating them? And then there is, of course, Aaliyah Strange, Adam and Alana's daughter. And we kind of see the end days of the war. At the tide in the flashback sequences, we see the tide turning on Ran in Ran's favor. But Mr. Terrific's theory is basically that. Oh, that was another inconsistent. That was what part of the Pixies losing the war, or losing their war with Ran. They captured Adam Strange and then let him go. Why? They needed him off the board. So, Terrific's theory is that he made a deal. Ran gets spared. Adam gets free reign to do whatever is necessary to take down the Pict invasion. And the Picts go after Earth. And the Picts are holding Adam Strange's daughter as collateral. But so yeah, the issue ends with Adam returning home to Alana after she's read the whole thing, as well as gotten a little mad at the face staring back at her in the mirror and punched it. And there's a an envelope from an M. Holt in Minnesota. Isn't M. Holt Mr. Terrific? That is where the issue ends. And that's it for this week's roundup. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter page. Yes. Oh, first off, Strange Adventures is shaping up nicely. Secondly, and I'll restart the show. There was one other DC book I did want to show off that I picked up this week. We're not going into what happens in the book, but yeah, Strange Adventures was solid. Even I was kind of I'm waiting to see. I'm definitely eager to see how these last 2 issues of the series pan out. But yeah. But this is not a book we'll be going into, just one I had to get. the second printing of Nightwing number 79. And to give you a better look, this is why. That cover. I mean, seriously. How could I not? But anyways, now that is definitively it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal account in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.